So, for everyone who's listening, my name is Michael Hale, and welcome to one of our Stet 2017 Volume 4 podcasts. So, with me right now is one of the authors of one of our fiction segments that we actually have, which is titled Among the Crusaders, and it's actually a chapter excerpt that you're able to read from the larger piece. But I feel that regardless of if you're able to read the whole piece or just a segment, it's really, really fascinating. And so I knew that when we decided to have one of these segments, I immediately wanted to have you. So what I'd like you to do is introduce yourself and just give us a brief synopsis of what this piece is. That way, say if someone is listening to this for the first time and they haven't read the piece and they immediately want to find a good stopping point, they maybe have a good introduction for what they're in for when they go and read it.
My name is Mohammed Ali Sumili. I'm from Saudi Arabia. The piece actually is from a novel called Among the Crusaders, and it's about a 19-year-old chap who goes to England to study for 3 months a language course. And the idea of that, it's more of a East meet West theme, and what kind of triggers that writing is like I'm interested in culture shock and how it affects people, and especially at this stage of time of their age, this stage of their age, because like it's their time they kind of formulate their identity. So I was looking at this perspective of exposing this young man to a large of unprecedented events, if I may say, that are really counter to his own beliefs and cultures. I want to see how would he react to that.
So when you mentioned culture shock, what does your experiences bring to making this particular character, main character, which his name is, his name is Ali?
Yeah.
Okay, so when Ali is a character, what do you bring as yourself as the author to this character, and what about the character is there anything about him that is nothing like you, or are there elements of him that are reflective of you?
Well, some of them could reflect some of my concerns, but I didn't want him to reflect my own perspective because I had some exposure and I'm aware of what I'm going to meet when I go to the Western countries, because like I read a lot and stuff like that, and a little bit fairly open. But to him, he kind of more, it's kind of a point where many concerns for many teenage boys going to the West might meet. So it's kind of, I wanted to explore that through him, because like when I written this piece, I was like 25 at that time, so I wouldn't say I'm a teenager.
Well, what's neat, so for myself as a reader, it's interesting that you mentioned shock, because a lot of what he encounters doesn't quite seem so shocking so much as it's just new. Like at one point, I believe Kate asked him, "When did you start drinking?" And he says, "Oh, about 3 weeks ago." So it's interesting that he's at this neat stage where you're not exactly writing about, oh, he's never had alcohol before. It's he's just now getting used to it in a way but you're writing about his experiences.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's not the only Saudi guy in the novel. Yeah, like there's a kind of group of students who are studying with him in the language school, and some of them are really we come from cities. He comes from a village, so that's why everything is new to him. But the other guys, they kind of come like from cities, and they kind of are more experienced when it comes to traveling abroad and meeting girls, drinking, and going to clubs and pubs and like that. So he's trying to, in a way, go along and to prove himself as being worthy of having a female partner, in a sense, a Western female partner.
So why is that in particular? That seems like it's his passion for Kate, for this character, and his interest. Why is that relationship? That seems like that is so whether or not this is indicative of the entire text, which is why I think it's interesting just by reading this excerpt. Their concern for each other, is that the heart of the entire novel, is his interest in this character?
Well, I mean, the reason he's interested in Kate, because Ali lives with a homestay family, so he's living with her mother, and Kate is she's a student in another city, and she visits him during the weekends, and he likes her, but she has a boyfriend who's cheating on her. and Ali knows about that. And when he goes to visit her, she kind of invites him to visit her. He kind of loves her, but and he knows like he found her boyfriend was another girl, but he's in a loss of what to do in this cultural situation. Is it my business to tell her, or just should I be quiet about it and stuff like that? But in the end, he falls in love with her, but it's too late for him.
Oh.
He has to leave.
Now, why did you pick the time frame for this story that you did? Because, which I won't say, it's World War II, so I don't know if anyone was particularly... I didn't know if I should hold that back as a surprise for anyone who, say, may be listening to this first. But, so why did you pick that time frame?
Well, it's not the time frame is not related to World War II. It's like around 2006 something. But the city, one of the cities the novelist sit in is Plymouth, and it was ferociously bombed by the Nazis during World War II.
Oh, okay. See, that's, as a reader, it's interesting because there's a context where they're talking about the Nazi bastards, and so without any other context, my brain immediately went to, okay, this piece based on some things must be a period piece. So it's not. So that's exciting for me because now I want to reread it in a completely different manner.
Yeah, it's got from the title Among the Crusaders, it would go on to picking up some historical moments like the Crusades in the Middle Ages and Richard the Lionheart and stuff like that. So it's going to have a little bit of backdrops of history in it, but not that much, because I want it to be like a young adult experience.
And of course, what's funny for me is now that you mentioned that, because my next question was about some of the texts. Now I realize, well, of course, these texts were published after World War II by about, I guess, 10 to 15 years. So my brain just didn't make that connection. So this is why this kind of thing is fun, is because especially when I read things, whoever may read this, if your context is, say you're reading this after this interview, so you know to pick up on these things, or let's say you read it before and you weren't entirely sure, I'm interested in, as a reader, like, so when you pick, so for example, there's references to Animal Farm and An English Teacher and Catcher in the Rye pretty early on in the first few pages. Why did you pick those texts?
Well, Animal of the Farm was a novel I've been taught during my bachelor degree, and this novel kind of, like when we studied it, we didn't know it's about communism at all. It was surprising to us, and the problem is like literature courses on literature as a major isn't viewed in a good sense in Saudi Arabia, because like someone who's studying literature in a sense is accused of being a little bit more pro-Western in a sense. But the novel, when we studied it, kind of shifted our perception of how to read, fiction, and how can many political themes could be immersed in symbols and stuff like that. So that novel's kind of initiated our interest in reading it. Catcher in the Rye is one of my favorite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite. Kind of identified with the character and as go. And I think he's like Ali in most of the sense. He's kind of lost trying to figure out his own where he stands and things. So he's kind of angry in a sense.
Is he also trying to find phonies or trying to figure out what is or isn't? Because that's that one reaction of him being like, don't let the main character in Catcher be like, phonies. Kind of that, trying to figure out who you are and then who everyone else is around you to find truth.
It does touch on that point, because touch on the issue of double standards, like how, like most people when they travel abroad, like they would act open-minded, freely with everything. I'm okay with everything, and when they go home, oh no, that's bad. So he's kind of, because one thing about the novel, it's the setting is both in England and in Saudi Arabia. So each chapter shifts, and it's kind of contradicts the previous chapters. It's kind of this dialectical approach of looking at things, of how he used to look at it before he came here. Like he has a friend he's given advice to who wants to marry a girl who he loves and who is a nurse, and his father is against her being a nurse and stuff like that. And then he comes here and he finds like how women are kind of empowered and living their own life, and it's okay. So I'm making him question his own kind of beliefs and ideologies, and wanted to see to what extent he will keep holding to them.
Excellent. So I'm curious with your background. So with your training in writing, what is your educational or pedagogical knowledge been shifting from Saudi Arabia here to America? And then how do you, when you write a character who is still so when you have a large knowledge base of, because you mentioned earlier that you already have had awareness, say, unlike this character, but you do get to write a character who's still discovering things. How do you reconcile what you already know with what you hope the character? You said you kind of say like he kind of has a bit of a doomed kind of outline. Why write him doomed? I guess I'm just curious as to why.
Well, most of the characters I draw from friends who I meet, who are like Ali, in a sense, new to the things, and I have to kind of explain. At one stage, sometimes I'm new to other stuff, and cultural stuff that I have to kind of understand. But mostly, Ali, most of my characters, like they take from most of the people I meet, so they kind of a assembly of traits and stuff. But it's always in my novels I have this gullible, naive character and a friend who is really the opposite, experienced, if I can say diabolical in a sense, who doesn't mind doing any stupid thing just to enjoy his life, and that's it.
So what is your background? How did you get started in teaching, and what has your history been with that, and how have you come to UTA?
Well, I've done my BA in English language in Saudi Arabia. Then I started teaching at public schools for a half a year. Then I moved on to a position of teaching assistant where I taught, language courses. Then I went to England where I got my MA in English Studies with a pathway in creative writing. So it's kind of that way it's initiated my interest in writing and teaching. And I've been teaching like various levels, like I taught students literature courses, and I taught them, language skill courses, and I was interested at one stage of adapting technology and teaching literature courses, which kind of a new thing to me. And then I got the chance that I had a scholarship to do my PhD, and I applied and I got accepted UTA. So
now, so I know that we have actually had a course together in the past, so I know somewhat your mindset on this particular kind of question, but I'm just curious for people who say have not been able to meet you or don't know, what are misconceptions or issues that in a normal setting that if you have the chance where you have a completely receptive, positive audience, what kinds of misconceptions about your background and your writing and from where you're from, as opposed to, say, what a normal Western audience may be used to? What are misconceptions that Westerners have about? Is there anything in our literature that is embracing of, say, the kinds of characters that you write about who are from another culture? Or is that the best part about your text, is you get to explain to a Western audience, hey, this is what it's like to experience this from my perspective?
It is part of that, like explaining to the Western audience what misconceptions they have about us. I mean, like I remember in the previous novel I've written, and I showed it to my friends. They were a little bit surprised that they didn't know that we were more exposed to movies. They were surprised that some of the characters listened to songs like Michael Jackson and Madonna. And at one stage, one of the things that I really like to clarify to my readers is like I try to present the culture as it is, not in a way that I want to beautify it, so to say, oh, that's an ideal culture, but in a way that I'm staging the culture, and that's why this is happening, and that's why it's okay there. But it doesn't mean it's wrong or write. It means like in this context, I'm contextualizing the whole thing to the audience to understand. One of the difficulties I really face is the language, because when I write, I'm not aiming at sounding a native like, because I like to express the ideas, and sometimes some of the expressions I don't think if I do them in a native like language, they wouldn't capture the meaning I'm trying. So I insist on you kind of defamiliarizing the language to the audience.
So so as an author, what kind of authors do you enjoy reading? So, because you mentioned Catcher in the Rye is one of your favorite books, but what other things do you absorb
I'm interested like in world literature, and like in American literature, my favorite writers are Raymond Carver, Ernest Hemingway, John Irving, Philip Roth. These like the people I kind of like reading for. And England, my supervisor, Philip Hinsher, is one I really like reading for him. And P.G. Wodehouse. I kind of like that guy. And then I have like from India, R.K. Narayan. I like his writing, and Chinua Achebe. And then I move on to kind of scatter around a little bit. But mostly those are the writers. Raymond Carver or people like minimalist writers are my main concern at this stage.
So what has your history been with publishing? I know that you have not just worked on say, the text that this is from, so Among the Crusaders. You've done other things.
Well, I published a novel called Memories Resurrected, and it kind of dealt on the issue of gender relations and honor killing, and it was kind of a interesting topic to address by a male author. And my main concern is like I'm against like males being treated differently than females when it comes to relationship and sexual relation. Like in some countries, I'm not in Saudi, but in some Arab countries and some Islam countries, they have what they call honor killing, that if a girl or a woman falls in love or have a sexual relationship, her family would kill her. And then, so my question is, why is the punishment has to be to the girl and not the boy? Then the main character accidentally kills his daughter when he kind of slaps her and she falls over the stairs, and then it makes him go back into his memories, recalling his own adventures with females and stuff. And in the end, he decides to kill himself. So he commits suicide, leaving the message to his traumatized wife that he was the one who killed his daughter.
Another doomed character. But it's so sad. Oh, my goodness.
He's not doing that too. Maybe
Now, but you also do poetry.
I wouldn't call it poetry, but sometimes I like to write a few stuff, like rhyming stuff, but I wouldn't call it poetry.
So what is so writing seems to be a very creative outlet for you, that it's a way for you to tackle both contemporary issues that you want to engage with, but also just, it seems like, just for enjoyment. How did you get into writing? What led you down the path to become an author and to be here in the first place? Well,
I'll be honest with you. Like when I started doing my MA, I took a course with the author Susanna Jones, and when I took that course, I thought that I'm supposed to just analyze text and stuff. And one day she said, "Okay, Mohammed, it's your turn to write a story." I said, "What?" So, and I started writing the first novel, and it was like they kind of liked it. They kind of praised the voice and the characters and the theme. So I continued on and finished the whole novel as my thesis.
Oh, cool. So, having had the interest in literature that you have, what do you think, or what do you hope that anyone that either reads not only anything that you make, but anything either that's on Stet, if they're listening to it or reading to it, or any other text, what do you hope that people get when they read something of yours, or reading in general? What do you hope that reading does for people?
Well, first of all, aside from being an enjoyable experience, I like to explore other cultures, other ways of people look at things. Like when we took the course together and we had the universal audience, I said, like, who's the universal audience? Is it like always the Western audience? So I said, like, to me, like I like people exploring other views and knowing other cultures. Like to me, I like reading like for Indian writers, and it kind of really shifted my point of view when I read them. So it kind of there's more than one side for reality.
Oh, excellent. So I guess my last question to kind of close out, what do you feel about the humanities as a discipline? It's obviously one that has a lot of facets. My personal view is that a lot of it functions best when it's collaborative. How has writing been a collaborative experience for you? Are there people that you'd like to reference or thank or tell us to go find out more about?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people I would thank. Like my friends in UK, my professor Philip Hencher is a Booker Prize, I think, judge, and he was his work have been listed many times for Booker Prize. Susanna Jones, I kind of would like to thank her because she's the one who initiated me into writing. Then my friend Luke Conrad, who is a poet, and he was like one of the people who his comments were helpful. And the other people I would remember. And then my students in Saudi Arabia, because I didn't know they are, I was surprised that they managed to find my novel, which I wasn't happy about, and because of the cultural sensitivity of the topics that I addressed. And they were really interested, and they brought many comments, and they said, and when I shared some of them, I said, they told me, we identify with some of the concerns of the characters. And I said, okay, that means I'm touching on a nerve, which is a good thing to me. But I mean, I'm still in the learning stage, so hopefully Stet would give me a chance to learn more and to get into the audience.
Thank you so much for your time and having shared your thoughts with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.